Hello everyone, my name is Triệu Hoàn Thắng and I am the leader of AF Economic News channel. Our YouTube channel is set up with the aim of providing you with international, economic and financial knowledge. As you know, tourism industry is one of the fastest growing economic sector and it is the most important driver of economic growth and development in many countries. Covid-19 pandemic is a health and economic crisis on global scale. So in this video, we are going to evaluate the economic consequences of Covid-19 pandemic on international tourism industry. And at the end of the video, we are going to show you what countries can do to mitigate the devastating effects of a lack of international tourism during and after Covid-19 pandemic.
A dramatic drop in demand that really the industry hasn't seen since 9/11.
The next few months will be ugly for the travel industry in terms of both demand and their financial performance.
This is what the sky looked like in March. And this 1 month later, when the passenger numbers were a staggering 94% lower than the previous year, thanks to the COVID-19. The tourism industry is enormous. Every year, international holiday makers spend $1.6 trillion. That's more than Spain's GDP. In April 2020, planes carried just 31 million passengers around the world. The short of passenger level last seen in the late 1970s. In the fourth quarter of 2020, international tourism already decreased by 22%, with a decline of 57% in March. Creating a forecast for the rest of 2020 is complex due to the rapidly changing circumstances, but the World Tourism Organization projects 3 scenarios depending on the course of the virus, and the duration of the travel restriction, and estimated a possible drops in international tourism arrival between 58% and 78% in 2020.
We have to show we're still here. We're responsible for the livelihoods of 45 people.
Usually we're booked at 80% capacity. Right now it's around 20%.
They conclude that the industry will lose $2.7 trillion in the 2020, and that millions of jobs are compromised by the crisis. Currently estimates that the Asia-Pacific region will be the most heavily impacted with 63.4 million jobs losses. For us, the research suggests that 30 million jobs in the travel and tourism sector will be lost, resulting in the tourism GDP loss of €633 billion. Due to the disease, nearly 21,000 girls with travel have cancelled tours or asked for changes to departure dates. The travel agency estimates that the initial damage caused by the COVID-19 pandemic in July amounted to $3.8 million.
COVID-19 crisis hits tourism. CSR analysis, COVID-19 and tourism. Assessing the economic consequences. International tourism is among the economic sectors most impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. The United Nations World Tourism Organization (UNWTO) estimates a loss of 850 million to 1.1 billion international tourist arrival, 910 million to 1.1 trillion in export revenues, and 100 to 120 million jobs. Most destinations were entirely closed in April and May 2020, opening only in some regions slowly for the northern summer. The second part is tourism in the CGE model ZTAP, Computable General Equilibrium, CGE model capture. intersectoral relationship as specified in input-output table, which shows the input is in production in each sector. CGA model also link countries through bilateral trade in goods and services. The current version of the GTAP database V10 includes sector accommodation, food and services, and recreation and other services, which cover most tourist expenditure. Most of the travel expenditure is into sector accommodation, food and services, and recreation and other services. Foreign income spent inside the country almost to on income transfer. Transits in the flow of tourists can be modeled as transits in final consumption, plus transits in the international income transfer. Scenarios. The scenario intermediate is closer to the assessment of the UN WTO that international tourist number could fall by 60 to 80% in 2020. The intermediate scenario assumes a reduction by 66%. The table 1 about alternative scenarios. Results as demonstrated in the model, global GDP losses under the most optimistic tourism direction scenario amount to an estimated $1.17 trillion, about 1.5% of global GDP in Figure 2. The GDP losses by the country are vary, as illustrated in Figure 3. The losses are largely determined by the size of the tourism industry relative to GDP.
In the medium and longer term, government should support economic diversification where possible. A high dependence on one sector increases vulnerability, and I suppose that for some countries, diversification away from tourism may be difficult. Avenues for economic diversification may include increased regional integration, education and training programs in targeted economic sectors to boost resilience and mitigate the cost of shocks. The damage incurred in the tourism sectors go beyond cancelled flights and hotel booking for sure. There is a strong case to be made for governments to intervene and cooperate at an international level to protect the lives and the livelihoods around the world. It's such a pleasure for me to share my 2 cents on the topic of tourism today with you guys. Thank you for having me. Come back to the question. What can countries do to mitigate the devastating effects of lack of international tourism during and after the COVID-19 pandemic? Well, I reckon in the short term, protecting people and maintaining a healthy tourism industry are important. Appropriate social protection can often prevent the worst effects of any type of shock, including the COVID-19 pandemic. Casual and self-employed workers are common in tourism-related sectors and should be helped where possible. Governments should protect workers, obviously, where some enterprises are unlikely to recover, which subsidies should be designed to help workers move to new industries. Governments can further assist tourism enterprises that may otherwise go bankrupt, such as hotels and airlines. One approach for financial relief is low-interest loans or grants. Although support is needed urgently, this requires a thorough analysis of the costs and benefits of support to specific sectors. The data have shown the economic effects are not only directly in the tourism sector, but spread across many sectors. Most governments have limited means to support or underwrite a major industry. Some programs, such as the Catastrophe Containment and Relief Trust by the International Monetary Fund, IMF, can offer short-term debt reliefs for some of its members. The key issue is whether the industry will bounce back once restrictions are removed. This is unprecedented. I must stress that this is an unprecedented shock and requires urgent action to prevent.
I am the reporter of IF Economic News Channel. In this video, I talk about the economic consequences of coronavirus pandemic on international tourism industry. Thank you for seeing our video.